Hey guys, the following is a quote from Mark Arm regarding Kurt Cobain's struggle with drug addiction. Quote, Nirvana surrounded themselves with really gross people. We did a 2-week trout with Nirvana in 1993. The Nirvana tour was just awful. Everybody was stepping on eggshells trying not to disturb Kurt. Courtney wasn't on that tour. They tried to make it a dry tour with no alcohol as some sort of example to Kurt. Kurt's interests had very little to do with alcohol, so it was a stupid exercise. They had no booze backstage, but we had beer on our rider. So every night, Chris, Dave, and whoever else wanted a beer would come to our little room and take our beer. It was ridiculous. Why didn't they just get enough beer for everybody who wanted it? Why this pretense that it's a dry tour when it's not really? Kurt was taking massive amounts of pills. He was totally stoned anyway. The whole idea that this dry tour was helping Kurt in any way was just absurd. Why didn't they take his pills? Communication within the band and the people around them was pretty much non-existent. On the way to Chicago, someone realized that Nirvana's hotel was far out of town, and the band wanted to stay in town closer to the venue. They canceled their rooms, ate the cost, and booked another hotel. So they paid for 2 hotel rooms per person that night, right? Our beer ran out during the Chicago show, so a friend of ours grabs a case of beer from catering and brings it to our room. Next thing you know, a federal case is made out of 24 beers. All these guys and their crew are running around with walkie-talkies like the Mona Lisa was snatched. Their tour manager is flipping out over the fact that we stole a case of beer and they're going to have to pay for it. He's calling Los Angeles, calls are going back and forth. How are they going to deal with the situation? They just spend how much money on 2 rooms per person, but they're flipping out over a case of beer that they have to buy from catering? It was the most absurd, insane thing. It was indicative of how the whole group of people were running themselves. They weren't looking at the big picture at all. They weren't looking at, what do we really need to do to make sure Kurt is okay? And I'm not talking about okay as in feel good and everything is the way he wants it so he can keep touring and earning money. What are they doing to try to get his head cleared so he can think straight? What are they doing to keep him alive? They danced around the real issue and got focused on these tiny, stupid, ego-tripping things. It was just horrible. And Chris and Dave seemed bummed the whole time, but they weren't really talking. No one really talked to each other. We rode with Nirvana on their bus one night, while our sound guy and our tour manager rode in the van by themselves. I think it was on the way to Davenport, Iowa. During the trip, Kurt is explaining all these pills he's on to me, and he's going, I would really like to stop doing all this stuff. How did you do it? I'd only stopped in July, so it was a couple of months. But I hadn't hung out with Kurt and Courtney since New Year's Eve of 92, going into 93. I had to stop seeing them because I was trying to save myself. I told them that you have to want to quit bad enough and that you've got to stay away from your junkie friends. Because they're not really your friends. They're just people who share an interest in heroin with you.